The first step is to identify and describe what exactly is a podcast. The best way to describe a podcast is that it is a downloadable radio show. It is an audio show. It is an audio format. Yes, there are downloadable video shows, which are sometimes called vidcasts or vlogs. That's a different thing. Podcasts really do mean audio, and the origins of the name come from the iPod, the Apple iPod. This was a audio program that you could download for your podcast. So it was a broadcast to iPods, hence a podcast. And the name is just stuck in the years since. It can take a variety of formats. We will explore a bunch of the formats that are available that you can have in your very own podcast. But within the format, no matter the structure, it is an audio program that is produced and released and distributed and is meant to be consumed later. There is a time delay, a time lag between the release of the podcast and the consumption of the podcast. That time delay could be as little as a day or an hour or as long as 10 years. I host my own podcast, and I will be drawing some examples from that podcast to show you. And I still see some of my very first episodes from over half a decade ago still get downloaded today. So that longevity is a part of the podcast. It is a series of episodes. It is a long running arc of episodes. It can be self-contained. It can be just, we're going to do a 10 episode miniseries podcast and that's going to be it. It can be as part of seasons where we're going to release 10 episodes and then a year later release another 10. It could be done every week or every month. We'll get into various timings and frequencies and structures for releasing podcasts. But no matter what, it is a part of a series. It's not a one-off. There's not going to be a podcast with one and only one episode and that's it. It's understood that podcasts are part of a larger series. They're almost always free. All the podcast distributors, the major ones that we'll explore, like iTunes, do release these episodes for free. Some content providers, some publishers of podcasts will only allow the latest episodes to be free. And if you want access to the back catalog, you have to pay for access to that. And then you get a secret code to a secret stream and you can download those other episodes. But by and large, podcasts are going to be free to consume. They are also, and this is a benefit for you, relatively easy and cheap to produce. We'll go through the mechanics of producing audio for you. It's a whole lot easier than producing video, especially on your own. It only requires a relatively minimal investment in gear and then a relatively minimal investment in a setup, and then you're off to the races creating your own podcast. And this is likely something that you'll be able to do out of your own home or out of your own office. You won't need a special setup unless you want one, and we'll explore that. Podcasts don't necessarily have a single host. Sometimes they can have multiple hosts. Sometimes they can have panels. Sometimes they can have co-hosts. Again, we will get into the advantages and disadvantages of having co-hosts. And also we will get into various structures for creating a particular episode or how you want the audio to actually sound and how many voices you want to participate in that. Like I said, podcasts can be consumed years and even decades later. So if you are going to present the latest findings, be aware that someone years from now may be finally getting around to that episode. So keep that context in mind. In general, though, the way I like to think of a podcast, the key features are that it's downloadable, that it can last for a very long time, that can be downloaded years later, that it is focused on audio, not visual, not text, although there can be accompaniments to it. It is focused on audio. But one of the nice things about podcasts that I enjoy about podcasting with my own shows is that it is a conversation with an audience. It is you speaking to an audience. You're giving lectures, giving insights, having interesting interviews, whatever. But you are going to create mechanisms, and we'll show you how the audience can come back to you and have a conversation with you back. And then you can go back and forth with your audience in the structure of your show. It is an ongoing conversation because you will get audience feedback. You will get listener feedback. You will get questions. You will get comments. You will get ratings and reviews. So as your show evolves, you will talk more and more to your hardcore fans, to your listeners, to your audience. They will talk to you, and you will form a beautiful, a conversation network.